Breaking news just into America's newsroom. The Trump administration will slap new sanctions to target Iran's nuclear program. 31 nuclear scientists and others will be hit with these new sanctions. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo saying, quote, "We will be relentless in denying Iran the ability to engage in weapon of mass destruction proliferation."
The way they've treated me, and we have found many crimes on the other side. These are stone-cold crimes, what they've done, between the deletion of 33,000 emails and many, many other things. If somebody, they all say Flynn, I don't know anything about what he said, but the FBI said he didn't lie. Mueller said he did lie. So what's that all about?
President Trump there talking to our own Maria Bartiromo about his treatment in the special counsel's investigation. This as we await Robert Mueller's report into Russian interference in the 2016 election. That investigation almost 2 years old now. Let's bring in our headliner, New York Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, chairman of the House Democratic Caucus and a member of the Judiciary Committee. Congressman, good morning.
Morning.
Nice to have you on set.
Good to be here.
Good to have you here. So you just heard the president on the Robert Mueller investigation. We are in an hour-by-hour wait and see to see when this is going to be released. What do you think is going to happen here?
Well, this is an important national security investigation that we just have to allow to run its course. The House just voted 420 to 0 to make sure that when Bob Mueller completes his work and finishes his report, that report can be seen by the American people, which is a bipartisan consensus now coming out of the House, good, bad, or indifferent.
And the president wants that, too.
President wants it, and I think that's the right thing to do. Whether the report exonerates the president, implicates the president, or somewhere in between, the American people deserve transparency.
The FBI director whom the president fired raised some eyebrows with this editorial in the New York Times. The headline is, "What I Want from the Mueller Report. I'm rooting for a demonstration to the world that the United States justice system works." And then he goes on to write, "I hope Mr. Trump is not impeached and removed from office before the end of his term. I don't mean that Congress shouldn't move ahead with the process of impeachment governed by our Constitution if Congress thinks the provable facts are there. I just hope it doesn't, because if Mr. Trump were removed from office by Congress, a significant portion of this country would see this as a coup, and it would drive those people farther from the common center of American life, more deeply fracturing our country." Your response?
Well, I think the overwhelming majority of House Democrats believe that any discussion of impeachment is way too premature, and Speaker Nancy Pelosi just came out and made clear that before anyone decides to go down this road, the case should be compelling, the evidence should be overwhelming, and the consensus in terms of public sentiment around impeachment should be bipartisan in nature. That's a strong standard. That's the right standard. That's the standard that I agree with. I'm not sure what James Comey is saying one way or the other, but our perspective on this issue has been clear.
Does that surprise you to hear him move away from any talk of impeachment of this president?
Well, it's kind of hard to know where James Comey stands on these issues because he's been in different places.
Where do you stand on that issue?
Well, my view has been clear, as I just articulated, that impeachment is premature and that, one, before we decide to proceed, one, we have to wait for the Mueller investigation to conclude itself. Two, we have to be able to review the report. Three, we got to make sure the report is presented to the American people.
So stay away from that for now, you're urging your fellow Democrats.
Well, we're going to continue to focus on lowering health care costs, increased pay for everyday Americans, a real infrastructure plan. I see the president just talked about that, and cleaning up corruption and the mess in Washington, D.C. That's the For the People agenda that we have been talking about.
That being said, former Congressman Trey Gowdy says he sees a real groundswell among Democrats to move toward impeachment. Listen to this.
I can't speak for Director Comey. I can tell you 60 Democrats voted to move forward with impeachment before Mueller's released a single solitary syllable. Schiff, not only does Schiff have evidence of collusion, he claims, but in his later quotes, he's actually got him indicted. And remember, he said there was a very real prospect he would actually go to jail. And now Swalwell is promising indictments.
So if 60 Democrats are on board, you don't think there's a wait and see attitude, or you do think there's a wait and see attitude?
Well, Trey, who I served closely with and worked with him on a wide variety of issues, including criminal justice reform, I think is referring to some procedural votes that took place in the last Congress with respect to a motion to table a resolution that was put forward by Representative Al Green. That has nothing to do with articles of impeachment, has nothing to do with starting an impeachment inquiry. It has nothing to do with steps that Democrats have taken since we seized control of the House of Representatives.
I've got to ask you now about these demands from House Democrats to have Jared Kushner answer questions and turn over documents related to what they say was his use of WhatsApp, which, as we know, is an encrypted messaging service. It's owned by Facebook to conduct business, official business, and communicate with foreign leaders. What are Democrats asking for here?
Well, I think people want to get some understanding of the type of communication that Jared Kushner was engaged in, whether that compromised sensitive discussions with foreign leaders and was susceptible to the type of hacking that could really jeopardize America's communication of information. And I think that is a reasonable request. We'll have to try to figure out what actually took place. Jared Kushner's lawyer has spoken. We haven't heard from Jared Kushner. I assume at some point he'll comment.
What is the request based on that came from Jared Kushner's lawyer?
Well, I think you would have to talk to the House Oversight Committee in terms of the particulars of what they want in the Judiciary Committee. We haven't gone down this road yet.
You're going to be speaking at the AIPAC conference, right?
That's right.
You've done that for the last several years. A number of prominent Democrats, presidential candidates, among them like Beto O'Rourke, are not going to be. Here is Beto on that point.
I'm here in South Carolina. I'm here in front of people who will decide who the Democratic nominee is, who are going to decide this next election, who will decide who will defeat President Trump and then bring this country together. That's the best way for me to spend this time. So it's not what I'm not going to or anything to the negative. It's what I'm for and what I'm excited to do. And what I'm excited to do is to be in Rock Hill this morning in South Carolina.
But others like Kamala Harris, for instance, are saying they will not speak at AIPAC. Do you think that's a mistake?
Well, I can't speak for the presidential candidates. What I can speak for is the House Democratic Caucus, who clearly are strongly pro-Israel. I myself, represent the 9th most African-American district in the country, the 14th most Jewish. It's the best of both worlds. I've been to Israel 3 times. I recognize that there's shared values, shared strategic interests that are important. And I think that is the perspective of the overwhelming majority of Democrats in the House of Representatives. In fact, Speaker Nancy Pelosi will be at the AIPAC conference. Chuck Schumer, the Democratic leader in the Senate, will be at the AIPAC conference, and several of my colleagues will participate as well.
Bernie Sanders says he won't be going because he's, quote, very concerned about the stage that AIPAC gives to leaders who have expressed extreme positions and who oppose the two-state solution. So what message is he sending to a pro-Israel group like AIPAC that you're going to be speaking on that stage?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, AIPAC's position, as I understand it, remains to robustly support a two-state solution. I think that's the right approach. That's in Israel's best interest. That's in the best interest of the democratic aspirations of the Palestinian people. That's in the best interest of America.
Very interesting to have you on the program this morning. And final thoughts on 2020 and the direction your party is going. I know that I just heard you talk about health care and the economy, but there's been a hard left turn in your party. Final thoughts on how 2020 is shaping up.
Well, I think it's going to be important to keep the focus on bringing America together, articulating a forward-looking vision to resolve issues on behalf of the American people, anchored in the kitchen table things that Americans are concerned about: retirement, security, good-paying jobs, increased pay. How do you educate your children in a meaningful fashion, and of course, lowering healthcare costs.
You ever get any robocalls on your phone? You're going to want to stay tuned for this next report. Okay.
Hakeem Jeffries, appreciate you being here this morning.
Thank you very much.